It's Tuesday, which means it's time for Mike's latest bracketology for Fox Sports. Still 10 Big Ten teams in the bracket, tied for the most of any conference. Michigan on the one line, Nebraska and Illinois are twos, Michigan State and Purdue threes, so a lot of power at the top. From there, fairly significant drop-off. You have Iowa as an 8, and then a bunch of teams that would technically be on the bubble. USC, Wisconsin, Indiana, UCLA, and then Ohio State is among his first 4 out. So, Mike, let's break some of this down. We start with Michigan, and we were talking a little bit. You were saying the number 1 overall seed maybe doesn't matter that much just because of the way the geography works out. But that said, are they the number 1 overall seed with Arizona losing last night?
I'm not sure I did a great job of not giving that away. I gave you a spoiler. Yeah, they're the number 1 overall seed. Now, they are number 1 in the predictive metric average at Ken Palm. The strength of BPI, that sort of category where it matters how you play, how much you win by. And we all remember Gonzaga by 40. That sort of set the standard for that. Yeah. So they're there, but they also now have the best resume as well. Wins above bubble, KPI, those sorts of metrics, they are also now number 1 in that category. They have the strongest average resume, and that is rooted at the fact that they have 16 wins against quads 1 and 2 combined. No one else in the country has more than 14, so a huge portion of their entire record has been built on quads 1 and 2, and that's really impressive. Again, when you look at the nature of the bracket and who they're competing with, there's really not that much of a fight for the geography. So they will be the number 1 in the Midwest if it were today, and they would have the chance to play close to home in the first round, and then they would go to Chicago for the Midwest Regional.
And, of course, they still have to go to Illinois. That's the big game that's coming up later in February here in the Big Ten. They have a huge game as well in Washington, D.C. against Duke, so we'll see how they measure up to another team that you have on that one line. Of course, you can see Michigan here on the Big Ten Network tomorrow. They are on the road at Northwestern. Nebraska was a 1 seed for a while, and then they lost those 2 games to Illinois and Michigan. Now you have them as a 2. I am interested, Mike, in how much the roster availability might factor in here for Nebraska. I mean, just the fact that Rink Mass didn't play in one of those games and then was clearly sick in the other. Braden Frager missed one of them. Is that an issue at all as you evaluate Nebraska?
I think it helps them a little bit, but then they have to go out and they have limited opportunities. Starting tonight is a huge one. They have limited opportunities to say, yeah, we're really that team that won at Illinois and took out Michigan State. And the fact that Rink played in the second Illinois game, even though he was pretty clearly diminished by the illness, that doesn't help their case at all because he was available and he's on the box score. So they have to go down the stretch and dominate if that's going to be a factor. If they were going to be competitive at all for a 1, I think those things have to happen. But for them, right now, they've got Kansas as we started the show with their win over Arizona. They've got Kansas knocking on their door. So in order to hold this line for now, they absolutely would have to win tonight. They've got a lot to recommend them, more than people think. They didn't have an overwhelming non-conference schedule, but they've got really important wins. The game against Michigan State was huge. The road win at Illinois was huge. And they've been very consistent. Their resume metrics are strong. Their predictive metrics not quite as good. But still, I think you're looking at them as a 2, a bottom lowest level possible for them would be a 3. But I don't totally rule them out of the 1 seed conversation either.
What about Illinois? They finally tripped up on Saturday. I know the predictive metrics, absolutely love them. We've heard a lot about, if you watch Illinois games, the offensive efficiency, that they're on pace for the highest in the Ken Palm era. What would it take for them to end up on that 1 line?
Yeah, they obviously have to have a great run. And Wisconsin tonight, then Indiana. Then they have the Southern California trip. They play at UCLA and at USC. And then they have the Michigan game. I think that the Michigan game is non-negotiable if they want to be a 1. They have to get that one. And they would probably have to win all of those games to be a 1. And that's a lot to ask, clearly. It's a terrific team. And they're playing very well without an absent starter. We talked about before, Kylan Boswell is one of the better defensive players in the league. one of the better defensive players in the country, a secondary ball handler and creator for them. And to be able to do all that without him is huge. But if he were to come back and they were to go down that stretch and get that Michigan game, that would put them back in the conversation for a one for sure.
Again, that game February 27th. Does feel like maybe they missed out on some opportunities in the non-conference at Alabama and UConn, 2 games which they lost. Michigan State, of course, just beat the Illini after losing at Minnesota. Other than that game against the Gophers, though, all their losses are against top 10 quality teams. So how do you see MSU here?
Yeah, I think they're in great shape. They have a really difficult schedule now at this point. They have a lot of challenges. What's interesting is that their victories, Quad 1A at Nebraska, they have a huge stretch of games with at Nebraska, at Iowa, and Michigan, and then down the stretch, Indiana, Michigan State, at OSU, Northwestern, Wisconsin. So it's a really significant schedule, and that gives them the opportunity to collect even more quality wins than they already had. I think that's really what gives Michigan State a chance to either solidify where they are toward the top of the bracket or perhaps climb to the 2 line. I'd say the 1 is probably out of reach for them.
And we've seen teams, mid-season add quality players. Breaking news, Michigan State has added a quality player as well. This coming from Stephen Izzo's Instagram. This is Grandma Izzo, 99 years old. You remember Tom Izzo telling Kurt Tang that he could not guard his 99-year-old mother, and we have video evidence of that. This is Tom Izzo's mom lighting up Kurt Tang. You can't really see, but he is guarding her in those shots. So that's the secret weapon, apparently, is Grandma Izzo. Hey,
that
how about
fadeaway jumper?
Yeah.
In the
Who knew she
corner
had that in her
is
arsenal?
just elite. Yes, exactly.
Okay, Purdue, they've been a little bit shaky lately, as we were talking about when we were previewing their game for tonight. They've won 2 straight after they had lost 3 in a row. I know the metrics still really like Purdue, but how do you assess the Boilermakers? I know you've got them on the 3 line. I mean, are they in jeopardy of falling further here? What do you see?
Yeah, the metrics are the key. Really strong resume metrics, and that's what keeps them hanging in where they are. Again, you're looking at a team that really has great opportunities down the stretch, and I do believe that Purdue has a chance to be special still. I know they've run off the rails a little bit here. It happened a year ago, and they wound up in the Sweet 16 with a great game against a Final Four team. So I still think they have a chance to solidify where they are and to climb.
And as we mentioned, the schedule is really challenging here for Purdue, and in some ways that's a positive because they're going to have to play better. They have to be the team that I think, all know that they can be at their best, so you have the competition here down the stretch to do that. When you look at the top of the league and all those teams that Mike assessed, 5 of them on the top 3 lines, what do you see?
I see the best chance that the Big Ten has had to win a national championship in a long time because we know the Big Ten has always had good coaching. We've always had good systems when we get in the tournament. But when you look at those top 5 teams, there's a lot of pros on those teams, and you need pros to win a national championship. You look at Michigan. 4 or 5 pros are on that roster. Trey McKinney's going to play a long time in the NBA. He's their 8th man. They have a real chance. Braden Frager, he's going to play at that next level. You look at Illinois, Keaton Wagler, he's going to be a top 5 lottery pick. When you get into the tournament, you need guys you can give the ball to and say, go make plays for me. Jeremy Fears, one of the best point guards in all of college basketball. And we all know once you get into March, guards make you go. And then you look at Purdue, 3 guys that's already played in the national championship. They've been to a Final Four. Braden Smith, one of the best point guards we've ever seen in college basketball. When those big 3, you think of Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Rand, Fletcher Lawyer, they get on the same page on the offensive end. They start playing hard defensively. They could turn this thing around. You look back at UConn, that season they won their first championship under Hurley. They went on a stretch where they lost 5 out of 6 and still went on to win it. Purdue could do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The quality of the players in this league is phenomenal, and that's why, 5 teams on the top 3 lines. That equals the last 2 years combined.
That's crazy.
In terms of, if that were to come to pass. So, things up on Big Ten today, continuing to look at Mike's latest bracketology. You mentioned Iowa's at 8 seed, so pretty good shape. Won't count them as a bubble team, but a number of other Big Ten teams in somewhat tenuous spots. USC's at 9, Wisconsin, Indiana 10, UCLA at 11. None of those among the last 4 in, so no first 4 as of now. And then Ohio State among the first 4 out. And again, the Buckeyes have a huge one tomorrow against USC that I mentioned will be here on the Big Ten Network. The Trojans really dodged a bullet against Penn State, Mike. They do have a quad 3 loss to Northwestern at home, and yet among this bubble group, you have them at the top. So explain to me why.
Yeah, only one quad 1 win is a problem, but they have 9. They're 9-5 against 1 and 2 combined. There aren't any bubble teams that are anywhere near that level of success in that section. So I think that's what puts them solidly in. Now down the stretch, as you can see, they've got the Ohio State game on the road. That is huge. They've got the 2 UCLAs, home and road. Not a very long trip unless there's traffic, but those are huge games for the Trojans. And then, of course, the opportunity at home to play Nebraska, a team that certainly, if you could get that one, you could end any questions about whether or not you're making it.
Wisconsin, we mentioned earlier, they have the best win of the year in college basketball. I mean, again, going on the road and beating the team that you have now said is the #1 overall seed in the tournament in Michigan, the only loss for Michigan on the season. The issue is there aren't many other wins here for Wisconsin that really resonate.
Yeah, but the metrics work out both in predictive and in the resume, which I think the resume metrics, if there's one thing that people learn from these discussions, resume metrics are huge. And they are rock solid as a tournament team in the resume metrics. Again, down the stretch, they have to take care of Iowa at home. I think that's huge for them. And then if they could get Michigan State at home, I think they would be fine and into the tournament. And looking at probably an 8-9 game, 10 at the worst. But those are the situations for them that they have to take care of in order to make it. Remember, when you're in this situation, there are a lot of teams like you that are losing games, and most of them don't have the talent and the ability that Wisconsin has. I think Wisconsin plays to their ability, and they'll get in.
We saw they also beat UCLA, which is a team in the field. UCLA has 2 quad 1 wins, but one of them is Washington, so that's not a team that's in the field, even though it would count as a quad 1. They have a ton of opportunities. I mean, the schedule is really hard here going forward. They go to Michigan and Michigan State, and then they come home for Illinois. But assess Mick Cronin's team at this point.
Yeah, they are what I call a standalone 11, which means they don't have to play in Dayton. And so that's not very safe. You have all those teams that are on the first 4 out line and the next 4 out line that are trying to catch you. But they do have the 35th best predictive metrics in the country, and that would really give them an advantage over pretty much everybody in that bubble conversation. I don't know why I keep thinking it, but I keep thinking that for them it's going to come down to their 2 games against the Trojans. They're arch rivals. Those games, I've been to some of them. They're terrific, and I just keep feeling like it's going to come down to at least getting a split in those games. I think if they lose both, they're going to have trouble making it.
Well, speaking of the Trojans, we said they have that game against Ohio State tomorrow. The Buckeyes are a really interesting team in that they don't have a single quad 1 win yet, Mike. Right. I think you look at them and you know that this is a team that can compete with teams on that level, but they haven't shown it to us at this point. So assess Jake Diebler's team and what they need to do to get into the field.
Yeah, right now, I don't want them to be looking back at what they could have done. I mean, that Carolina game stands out. They had the opportunity to defeat Carolina and let it get away. But they have as much opportunity as just about anybody. And it kind of begins, obviously it begins with the USC game. But then they have that interesting game, that non-conference game against Virginia in Nashville. That's a huge opportunity. Virginia's hanging on. My 4-seed line has been hanging around there for now a month. So that would be a great opportunity. They have Wisconsin coming into home. They have Purdue coming into home. It's a really difficult schedule, but in their circumstance, they absolutely need a difficult schedule because they've got to get some achievement, some high-end achievement, but certainly some achievement. They don't necessarily have to be quad 1A victories, but they need some quad 1s. You're not getting in with 0.
Yeah, and to get a quad 1 on a neutral site, which the Virginia game gives them the opportunity to do, is huge. Of course, quad 2 game tomorrow at home against USC. So Mike went through the bubble teams there. What do you see?
UCLA getting all the way to Elite 8, just like I thought they would. UCLA, they are cooking with gas right now. I am on the bandwagon again. My boys, Purdue, they fixed UCLA. Donovan Dent has been cooking over the last 6 games, averaging close to 17 points, 9 assists, getting in the lane at will, playing like the Donovan Dent that we thought we would see coming into UCLA. Tyler Bilodeau has been having an all-conference caliber season, first-team all-conference, averaging over 18 points a game, doing it on very high splits. My boy Trent Perry has been playing his best basketball of his college career over the last 6 games. You get Sky Clark back into this lineup, Mike, this UCLA squad could be exactly who we thought they were coming into this season.
Yeah, I will say that I have known Mick for over 30 years, and I thought he was my guy. But UCLA in the Elite Eight, he's your guy now, Raphael. I think you took possession of him. I can't fight you for that.
That's my guy. That's my team, baby.
This is going to be a really telling stretch for them just because of how tough these games are. Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois in succession. I mean, if you win one of those, you're in great shape, but can you just survive and still play well on the back end? Thanks for watching.